I've been doing urban exploration for a few years now. Abandoned hospitals, train stations, fallout shelters. But this place felt different the moment I saw it. I didn't even know this part of southern Estonia existed. Dense pine forests, decaying Soviet infrastructure, and a weird silence that followed me all the way from the nearest village. Locals refused to talk about the factory, only calling it the square or the echo site. It doesn't even show up properly on satellite view, just a weird blur like someone tried to erase it. The building is massive. From above, it's shaped like a perfect square, four identical wings stretching outward like the points of a compass. All the exterior walls are concrete and glass, but half the windows are shattered. Do not enter. Signs are bolted to rusted gates. Faded symbols in a language I didn't recognize were spray painted over steel doors. Exactly the kind of place I live for. I started rolling as soon as I stepped out of the car. The camera's mounted on my chest, another one strapped to my shoulder for wide shots. The goal was simple: explore it, document it, upload it, maybe get 200K views. Standard stuff. The main entrance was already cracked open, like someone had forced it with a crowbar, recently too. The metal was bent, and fresh scrapes marked the concrete floor inside. I didn't hear anything, just wind, just silence. I stepped in. The first thing that hit me was how symmetrical everything was. Hallways split off in every direction, mirrors of each other, left and right, forward and backward. Even the staircases looked the same, winding, metal, spiraling both up and down in perfect coordination. It was like walking inside a brain made of steel. The walls were lined with old machines, most of them dismantled or covered in thick plastic sheeting. Some doors were bolted shut, others just open. And every corridor looked exactly like the last. After about 15 minutes inside, I'll be honest, I wasn't finding anything mind-blowing. But then, something caught my eye. There was a small room tucked behind one of the stairwells. The door had no handle, just a dented metal plate where one used to be. I nudged it open with my boot and immediately felt the air change, cooler somehow. Staler. Inside there were filing cabinets, dozens of them. Most of the drawers were empty or filled with rotted paper, but one had intact documents, thick folders, stamps, some kind of symbols embossed into the paper. Military, maybe? Government? The writing wasn't in Estonian or Russian or anything I recognized. It was blocky, almost geometric, like a constructed language. Whole paragraphs filled with repeating symbols and numbers, underlined in red ink. I flipped through page after page and filmed everything. One document had a diagram that stuck with me. It showed the floor plan of the building, but not just once. It was drawn twice, side by side, identical, perfect mirror images. And between them, at the center, was a circle, no label. Just a circle and a handwritten note in that same language, circled multiple times like someone was trying to warn me. I don't scare easy, but this wasn't the usual leftover blueprints kind of thing. It felt calculated, deliberate. Like this place wasn't just abandoned, it was left behind on purpose. I stayed in that file room longer than I expected. I kept pulling drawers open, half expecting to find something like maps, machinery logs. But the deeper I dug, the weirder it got. Every document I found, every diagram, schematic, memo, they all referenced the same word over and over again. At least I think it was the same word. That geometric language repeated it in bold headers, stamped in ink, circled in pen, three thick symbols arranged in a triangle. One file had a drawing that I can only describe as architectural philosophy. It showed a figure standing in the center of the building, with lines stretching out from their body like a compass, exactly aligned with the hallways, stairs, and doors. Notes surrounded the drawing, pointing at the angles, distances, and reflections. Some annotations were in that unknown script, but a few were in English. Handwritten. I remember one clearly. It said, "Symmetry is not design. Symmetry is intent." It wasn't just a layout. It was a statement. I stepped out of that room with the feeling that this place wasn't just built to be functional. It was built to mean something. Every corridor mirrored another. Every staircase was paired with one on the opposite side. I started walking with the camera pointed at the floor, watching how even the cracks in the tiles followed mirrored paths, like someone had engineered imperfection to reflect itself. Even the decay was balanced. Two identical doors opposite each other, One burned, the other water damaged. Same shape of damage, same spread, as if time had decayed both sides with the same hand. I went back to one of the main corridors and stood dead center, spinning slowly with the camera to capture it all. Each hallway stretched out perfectly, vanishing into the same type of darkness, as if I were standing in the middle of a giant cube. It was hypnotic, disorienting, beautiful in a cold, alien way. And that's when something started to gnaw at the back of my mind. A thought I couldn't shake. If this place is perfectly mirrored, then where exactly am I standing? Am I at the entrance? Am I at the center? Or am I already on the other side? As I moved deeper into the building, I stopped in what looked like an old office. The glass wall was shattered inward, and a rusted metal desk stood in the center, covered in dust thick enough to leave fingerprints. I set down a small pack of cigarettes while I adjusted the shoulder rig on my camera. Just a habit, really. I don't even think about it anymore. Inside the pack, tucked into the cellophane, was my lighter. Not just any lighter, my lighter. A cheap plastic one I'd had for years, covered in a worn sticker of a cartoon dog with sunglasses. People joke about it every time I pull it out. It's kind of become my thing. After a couple of minutes, I finished setting up the gear, grabbed the camera, and left the room, thinking I had everything. I didn't realize the cigarettes were missing until maybe 10 or 15 minutes later. I'd kept walking, documenting every hallway, every mechanical room, trying to follow the building's strange mirrored structure. Eventually, I stepped into another office. Same layout. Same broken glass. Same exact desk in the center of the room. But when I looked down, there it was, the cigarette pack, sitting exactly where I'd left it. Same crumpled edge on the bottom. Same little ink stain on the side from when it leaked in my backpack last week. And when I opened it, my lighter was inside. Same sticker. Same little chip on the plastic from when I dropped it on gravel 2 winters ago. It was mine, no doubt about it. But this wasn't the same room. I know what I saw. The hallway outside this one had green wallpaper, not red. The ceiling here had a rusted ventilation grate, not missing tiles. The calendar on the wall was torn to June. Back there, it was August. This wasn't a loop. I hadn't circled back. This was a different room. But somehow my cigarettes and my lighter were already here. I stood there, frozen, holding my lighter like it meant something. My mind was racing through explanations, none of them convincing. Parallel rooms, duplication, did someone copy my stuff? I shook my head. This is stupid, I muttered out loud. I turned to leave and accidentally bumped the edge of the desk with my hip. That's when I knocked something off the far corner, a ceramic mug. It hit the floor hard, exploded into sharp white pieces, the sound harsh and sudden in the still air. But then, about a second later, I heard it again. The same breaking noise, slightly softer, like a delayed copy of the original sound. It wasn't bouncing off the walls. It was too clean for that, too precise. Then, after another few seconds, a third shatter, faint. So faint I almost thought I imagined it. No new mug, no movement, just that same strange reply. Whisper quiet this time, like the building itself was trying to remember the sound. I froze, heart pounding. I knew echoes. I'd filmed in tunnels, abandoned churches, underground water treatment facilities. This wasn't how echoes worked. They didn't layer like that. They didn't trail off like ghost recordings. I looked down at the broken mug. A few of the shards had landed upright, revealing a printed phrase in faded blue letters. Science. Because magic is just lazy math. A laugh almost escaped me. Dry, nervous. Classic lab humor. But even that tiny release of tension felt wrong. Everything felt wrong now. I crouched to pick up a shard, more to keep my hands busy than anything. But the silence that followed was thicker than before. Oppressive. Like the building had paused, listening. And somehow, I felt like I was no longer alone in that room. But nothing moved. Not yet. Okay, I'd had enough. Between the duplicate room, the cigarette pack, and the weird shattering echo, I told myself I had more than enough footage for a solid video. Maybe even a series. Get out now. Edit later, I muttered, trying to sound casual, but my voice cracked. I turned back toward the main corridor, aiming to retrace my steps. Problem was, nothing here looked like where I came from. Every hallway, every staircase, every doorway, identical, like someone had copy-pasted the entire place in 4 directions. The symmetry wasn't just unsettling anymore. It was disorienting. Every choice looked like a mirror of the one I'd just made. I picked a direction that felt right and walked. That's when I started to hear it again. Not loud, not even clear, just the faintest brush of sound behind me, like a soft reflection of my own footstep, half a second late. Not quite an echo, something lighter, like a breath mimicking a step. I stopped. It stopped. My pulse jumped. I took 2 more steps, slower this time. And again, there it was, the same soft trace of movement. Not behind me exactly, more like alongside, just out of sync, like walking next to a shadow that sometimes remembers to move. The sound felt exactly like what happened with the mug. That same repetition. Not a bounce, not reverberation, a response. I started walking faster, turning at random corners, trying to shake the noise or prove it wasn't real. After 5 minutes of wandering, I reached something I hadn't seen before, a long hallway, completely dark, stretching forward like a tunnel into nothing, but at the far end, a small red light. I froze, not bright, not blinking, just steady, dim, like an LED indicator, barely glowing. Probably a security sensor, I thought, or maybe an old emergency system still running on backup. But then it moved, not on its own, with me. I stepped forward once, slowly. The light shifted, closer. I stopped. It stopped. I took another step. The red dot moved forward again, keeping pace, like it was tethered to me. My skin crawled. This was wrong. And then the whispering footsteps returned. Not behind, not ahead, just near. I was done being curious. My hand went to my jacket pocket, grabbed my flashlight, clicked it on. The moment the beam hit the far end of the hallway, a second light flared up. White, bright, blinding. Not a bulb, not a reflection. Something sharp and violent, like a camera flash, or a spotlight aimed straight back at me. I staggered backward, heart in my throat, and ran. Full sprint. No direction, just away. My footsteps slammed the floor in panic, echoing against themselves, followed, of course, by those other steps, those whisper-soft repeats, only milliseconds behind. I flew up a staircase I didn't recognize, almost tripped, caught the railing, kept going. Whatever that light was, whatever was waiting at the end of that hallway, I didn't want to know. I didn't stop running until my legs burned. Up one hallway, down another, ignoring every door, every staircase. I didn't care where I was going anymore, just away from that light, away from the echo that followed me like a shadow trying to catch up. At some point, I found myself at a large double door. Not the entrance, but close. I recognized a fire exit sign barely clinging to the frame. I shoved it open, half expecting an alarm. Nothing. Just cold, gray daylight hitting my face like a slap. Outside, I didn't even pause to look back. The factory loomed behind me, quiet as ever, but it felt different now, like it was watching, like it knew. I half jogged back to the edge of the lot where I'd left the car. Gravel crunched beneath my boots. My hand was shaking as I pulled out my keys, fumbled them into the ignition. Inside the car, I exhaled, hard. First real breath I'd taken in 20 minutes. Felt like I'd just surfaced from underwater. Safe. Finally. The engine turned over, the dashboard lit up, and with it, the radio flicked on, volume a little louder than I remembered. Some static-filled station was mid-song, distorted vocals humming something unintelligible. Not in the mood for noise. I leaned forward and pressed the button to turn it off. Except, I didn't. The screen flickered, and the station changed. Weird. I could have sworn I hit power, not the tuning knob. I looked again. The power button was clearly on the left. I'd pressed the right. Total muscle memory. No idea how I screwed that up. Whatever. My nerves were still shot. I didn't think much of it. The new station was just more static anyway. A few beeps. Maybe someone talking in the background, but it was scrambled. Maybe foreign. I didn't care. I hit the real power button this time. Watched the display go black. Silence. I sat back, took another deep breath, and finally let myself think. Not about what happened in there. Not yet. No analysis, no theories, no reflection. Just this thought. This is going to blow up online. And it would. I could already picture the title. I found something inside this forbidden lab, Urbex. 10 minutes later, I pulled onto the highway. Didn't even realize the static had come back.